Welcome to the 11th standard zoology class. Today we are going to see about the topic digestive system. The how the digestion takes place in the mouth, stomach and intestine and the digestional disorders. Next we will see about the digestion in the buccal cavity. The smell, taste of the food which triggers a reflex action which results in the secretion of the saliva. The mechanical digestion starts in the mouth by grinding and chewing of the food. This is called as a mastication. The saliva contains water, electrolytes. So what are the electrolytes? The electrolytes are sodium, potassium and bicarbonates. The saliva also contains a salivary amylase. So the other name for the salivary amylase is a ptyalin. The lysozyme is an antibacterial agent which kills the bacteria and the lubricating substance is called as a mucus. So this mucus is a glycoprotein. The mucus in saliva prepares the food for swallowing, moistening, softening and lubricating. This form of food is called as a bolus. Then this bolus is passed into esophagus by swallowing. This swallowing is otherwise called as a deglutition. So what is the term? Deglutition. The bolus passes down through the esophagus into stomach by peristaltic movement. So what is a peristaltic movement? The contraction and relaxation that takes place in the esophagus, that is called as a peristaltic movement. The gastroesophageal sphincter controls the passage of food into the stomach. Then next we will learn about the digestion in the stomach. The food remains in the stomach for 4 to 5 hours. It's a 1 mark question. How long the food remains in the stomach? It is for about 4 to 5 hours. Then by the peristaltic movement, the food reaches the stomach. And here the food mixes well with the gastric juice. The gastric juice is secreted by the gastric glands of the stomach. The gastric glands of the stomach secretes the gastric juice which mixes well with the food and turns into the creamy liquid. It is called as a chyme. The secretion of the gastric juice begins when the food is in the mouth itself. The gastric juice contains HCl and proenzymes. The proenzymes, pepsinogen, it's a 1 mark question. This proenzyme on exposure to HCl which is converted into the active enzyme, that is a pepsin. The proenzyme is a pepsinogen. This pepsinogen on exposure to HCl, it is converted into the active enzyme, that is a pepsin, which converts the proteins into proteases and peptones. The HCl is an acidic medium which kills the ingested bacteria and other harmful organisms and avoids putrefaction. So what is a putrefaction? It prevents the decay. Decay is called as a putrefaction. The HCl, it avoids the decaying of the food. The mucus and present in the gastric juice, it plays an important role in the lubrication and protection of the mucus layer. So this mucus layer it surrounds the stomach. So it protects the stomach from the eroding action of the HCl. Another proteolytic enzyme is renin. It helps in the digestion of the milk protein. That is, it converts the casinogen into casein in the presence of the calcium ion. It's a 1 mark question. Casinogen is converted into casein in the presence of calcium ions. Again we just recall the digestion in the stomach. How long the food remains in the stomach? It is for about 4 to 5 hours. The gastric juice, it contains a pepsin and renin. So this pepsin, it is in the inactive form, that is a proenzyme, that is a pepsinogen. On exposure to HCl, this pepsinogen is converted into pepsin which converts the proteins into proteases and peptones. The oxantic cells or parietal cells which secrete the HCl, this HCl acts as a acidic medium which kills the ingested bacteria and other harmful organisms. Then another enzyme is a renin, which helps in the digestion of the milk protein. It converts casinogen into casein in the presence of calcium ions. All these enzymes gradually reduces with the aging. Next we will learn about the digestion in the small intestine. The bile juice, the pancreatic juice and intestinal juice. Which secretes the bile juice? The liver. Pancreatic juice is secreted by the pancreas and the intestinal juice is secreted by the intestine. All these secretions are released into the small intestine. The bile contains a bile pigments, that is a bilirubin and biliverdin, and the bile salts, that is a sodium glycolate and sodium taroglycolate, and there is no enzymes. The bile helps in the digestion of the fat. Then this pancreas, it secretes the pancreatic juices. So what are the pancreatic juices? Trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogen, carboxypeptidase, pancreatic amylase, pancreatic lipase and nucleases. So what are the pancreatic juices? Trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogen, carboxypeptidase, pancreatic amylase, pancreatic lipase and nucleases. So this trypsinogen is converted into active trypsin. The trypsinogen is converted into the active trypsin in the presence of the enterokinase enzyme. In the presence of the enterokinase enzyme. This enterokinase enzyme is secreted by the intestinal mucosa. Then this trypsin helps in the digestion of the proteins, which converts the proteins into polypeptides and peptones. Then a chymotrypsin, which is activated by the trypsin. The chymotrypsin is activated by the trypsin, which converts the or hydrolyzes the peptide bonds associated with the specific amino acid. Then pancreatic amylase converts a glycogen and starch into maltose. Then lipase act on fat and hydrolyzes into free fatty acid and monoglycerides. These monoglycerides are further hydrolyzed to fatty acid and glycerol. The nucleases in the pancreatic juice, it breaks down into the nucleic acid and nucleosides. The secretion of the Brunner's gland, where you can see the Brunner's gland in the duodenum. Along with the secretion of the intestinal glands, it also constitutes the intestinal juice or succus entericus. It's a 1 mark question. Intestinal juice or succus entericus. Then this enzyme, it also contains maltase, lactase, sucrase, peptidase, lipase, nucleotidase, nucleosidase. All this it act on the breakdown product of bile and pancreatic digestion. As a result of digestion, all the macromolecules of food are converted into the corresponding monomeric units, that is carbohydrates are broken down into the glucose, fructose and galactose, then proteins into amino acids, then lipids into fatty acid and glycerol. These simple substances are absorbed in the jejunum and ileum of the small intestine. The undigested food is then passed on into the large intestine. So what is a absorption? It is a process. The end product of digestion is passes through the intestinal mucosa into the blood and lymph. So the villi act as a absorbing unit. So villi, you can see it in the small intestine. It is a small finger-like projections which act as a absorbing unit. So this villi, it consists of, at the center, it consists of the lacteal duct, which is surrounded by the network of blood capillaries. So the process of absorption involves active, passive and facilitated transport. The small amount of glucose, amino acids and electrolytes like a chloride ions are generally absorbed by the simple diffusion. Then substances like fructose are absorbed with the help of sodium. Then this type of mechanism, it is called as a facilitated transport. It's a 2 mark question. So what is a facilitated transport? The substances like fructose are absorbed with the help of sodium. It is called as a facilitated transport. The lymphatic duct, it releases the absorbed substances into the bloodstream. The fatty acids are absorbed by the lymph duct. The other materials are absorbed either actively or passively by the capillaries of the villi. The water-soluble vitamins are absorbed by simple diffusion or by active transport. The transport of water depends upon the osmotic gradient. The maximum absorption takes place in the small intestine. It's a 1 mark question. Then absorption of simple sugars, alcohol and medicines takes place in the stomach. It is also a 1 mark question. Where the sugars are absorbed, it is absorbed in the stomach. Then maximum absorption takes place in the small intestine. Then certain drugs are absorbed by the blood capillaries in the lower side of the tongue and mucosa of the mouth. The large intestine is also involved in the absorption of more amount of water, vitamins, minerals and drugs. The absorbed substances are transported through blood and lymph to the liver through the hepatic portal system. So, what are the 5 processes of digestion? First one is an ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation and egestion. The digestive waste and the unabsorbed substances in the ileum enter into the large intestine and it mostly contains the fiber called as a roughage. So, this roughage is a 2-mark question. Then this roughage is utilized by the symbiotic bacteria in the large intestine for the production of vitamin K and other metabolites. The fecal matter initiates a neural reflex causing an urge or desire for its removal. This process is called as a egestion. The intake of too much of food or lesser amount of food than the basic requirement is called as a malnutrition. A diet which can provide all the metabolic requirement of the body in a right proportion is called as a balanced diet. Then these vitamins are naturally occurring organic substances regularly needed in minute quantities for maintaining normal health as metabolic regulators. The vitamins are classified into fat soluble vitamins, that is vitamin A, D, E and K, and water soluble vitamins are vitamin B and C. The vitamins like A, D, E and K, vitamin A, vitamin D, E and K, if consumed beyond record level, it may cause us the diseases or defects. It is commonly called as a hypervitaminosis. It's a 2-mark question. What is a hypervitaminosis? First we'll see about the vitamin A. This vitamin A, it is otherwise called as a retinol. So what is the another name for the vitamin A? It is a retinol. It is a anti-xerophthalmic vitamin. Vitamin A is a anti-xerophthalmic vitamin. This vitamin A, it plays an important role in the visual perception and the maintenance and growth of epithelial tissue. The symptoms of deficiency which is caused due to the vitamin A are nyctalopia, that is a dryness of the eyeballs, then whited spots in the cornea, dermatosis, dry and scaly skin, then keratomalacia, atrophy of the lacrimal gland or the tear gland which reduces the secretion of the tear. Then vitamin D, calciferol. Vitamin D is otherwise known as a calciferol. It promotes intestinal absorption of calcium and phosphorus, formation of teeth and bones. The deficiency of vitamin D causes rickets and osteomalacia, that is a softening of the bones. Then vitamin E, it is otherwise called as a tocopherol or anti-sterility vitamin. It is an antioxidant. It keeps the skin healthy by reduces the process of aging. It defective, it causes a sterility in animals. Then ruptured RBC cells. Then vitamin K, it is a anti-hemorrhagic vitamin. It is required for the synthesis of prothrombin in the liver. Next we'll learn about the water soluble vitamins. So what are the water soluble vitamins? Vitamin B and vitamin C. This vitamin B1, it is otherwise called as a thiamine. It involved in the carbohydrate metabolism. The deficiency, it causes the beriberi, that is, it affects the muscular, nervous and cardiovascular system. Then B2 is a riboflavin. It acts as a coenzyme in oxidation and reduction reaction. It causes inflammation, soreness and fissures in the deficiency and corners in the mouth and lips and tongue. Loss of appetite. Appetite means what? No hunger. Then a skin and eye disorder. Then a B3 is a pantothenic acid. It acts as a coenzyme A and is essential for the metabolism of fats and carbohydrates. It causes gastrointestinal disorders, anemia. What is here anemia? Destruction of the RBC cells, then burning feet syndrome. Then a B4 is a choline, precursor for acetylcholine, fatty liver. Then niacin is a vitamin B5 or nicotinic acid. It is a derivative of coenzyme. It causes the pellagra. It is characterized by the dermatitis, diarrhea, dementia and death. So that is a 4D syndrome. What is it? Dermatitis, diarrhea, dementia, that is a mental disorder and death. Then a B6 is a pyridoxine. It causes a hemoglobin formation, brain, heart and liver activities. It deficiency, it causes the dermatitis, convulsions, muscular twitching and anemia. Vitamin C, it's ascorbic acid. It acts as an antioxidant. It strengthens the immune system necessary for healthy gums and teeth. In the deficiency, it causes the scurvy or sailor's disease. It is by spongy, bleeding gums, falling of teeth, fragile bones, delayed wound healing. Next we'll learn about the calorific value of carbohydrates, proteins and fats. These carbohydrates are sugar and starch. These are the major source of cellular fuel which gives the energy. The calorific value of carbohydrate is 4.1 kilocalories per gram and its physiological fuel value is 4 kilocalories per gram. Proteins are the source of amino acids which is required for the growth and repair of body cells. The calorific value and physiological fuel value of 1 gram of protein are 5.65 kilocalories and 4 kilocalories respectively, according to the ICMR. So what is ICMR? Indian Council of Medical Research, and along with the World Health Organization, the daily requirement of protein for an average Indian is 1 gram per 1 kilogram body weight. Growing children require more amount of protein for the growth and development. The protein deficiency diet during early stage of children may lead to the protein energy malnutrition such as marasmus and kwashiorkor. The symptoms of kwashiorkor are dry skin, pot belly, edema. Edema means what? Swelling. Swelling in the legs and face. Stunted growth, short growth, changes in hair color, weakness and irritability. The symptoms of marasmus, they suffer diarrhea, body becomes lean and weak. That is known as what? Emaciation. The person becomes very lean and weak is called as a emaciation with reduced fat and muscle tissue with thin and folded skin. Next we will learn about the indigestion. So what is indigestion? If the food is not properly digested, it is a digestive disorder in which the food is not properly digested, leading to the feeling of fullness of stomach. It may be due to inadequate enzyme secretion, anxiety, food poisoning, overeating and spicy food. the constipation. In this condition, the fecus are retained in the rectum itself. The fecus remains in the rectum itself because of irregular bowel movement due to poor intake of fiber in the diet and lack of physical activities. Vomiting. This vomiting is a reverse peristaltis. The harmful substances and contaminated food from stomach are ejected through the mouth. So this is called as a vomiting. So this vomiting action is controlled in the medulla oblongata. Then next we will learn about the jaundice. So in the jaundice, the liver is affected and the liver cells fail to break down the hemoglobin and to remove the bile pigments from the blood. The deposition of these pigments changes the color of the eye and skin yellow. Sometimes the jaundice is caused due to the hepatitis and viral infections. The liver cirrhosis is nothing but the degeneration and destruction of the liver cells resulting in abnormal blood vessels and bile duct leading to the formation of fibrosis. It is called as a deserted liver or scarred liver. It is caused due to infection, consumption of poison, malnutrition and alcoholism. Any alteration in the composition of the bile can cause the formation of stones in the gallbladder. It results in the gallstones. The stones are mostly crystalline cholesterol in the bile. The gallstones causes obstruction or blockage in the cystic duct, that is the duct arises from the gallbladder where the bile juice is stored, and hepatic duct and also the hepatopancreatic duct causing the pain, jaundice and pancreatitis. That what is a pancreatitis? The inflammation of the pancreas, it is called as a pancreatitis. Then cystic duct, it arises from the gallbladder. The hepatic duct, it arises from the liver. Then it combines to form as a common bile duct, that is both the cystic duct and hepatic duct, which opens into the duodenum along with the pancreatic duct. It is called as a hepatopancreatic duct. The inflammation of the appendix, it is called as a appendicitis. So what is a appendicitis? The inflammation of the appendix, it is called as a appendicitis. The treatment involves the removal of the appendix by surgery. If the treatment is delayed, the appendix may rupture and result in the infection of the abdomen, that is called as a peritonitis. It's a 2-mark question. So what is a peritonitis? If the appendix is not ruptured, it causes the infection of the abdomen, that is called as a peritonitis. It is otherwise called as a diaphragmatic hernia. Hiatus hernia, it is otherwise called as a diaphragmatic hernia. So what is a diaphragm? It is a muscular sheet which separates the thorax and the abdomen. In the hiatus hernia, the superior part of the stomach is protrudes slightly above the diaphragm. So what's a hiatus hernia? The superior or anterior part of the stomach protrudes slightly above the diaphragm. It is called as a hiatus hernia. So the reason may be caused due to the injury or any other damage. It may weaken the muscles or applying too much pressure on the muscles around the stomach while coughing, vomiting and straining during the bowel movement and lifting heavy object. Heartburn is common in the hiatus hernia. In this case, the stomach content travel back into the esophagus or even to the oral cavity and causes pain in the center of the chest due to the eroding nature of the acidity. This diarrhea is a gastrointestinal disorder. It is caused by the bacteria or viral infections through the food or water. When the colon is infected, the lining of the intestine is damaged by the pathogens. So what is a pathogen? The disease causing germs are known as pathogens. Thereby the colon is unable to absorb the fluid. The abnormal frequency of bowel movement and increased liquidity of the fecal discharge is known as a diarrhea. So the treatment is a oral hydration therapy. This involves drinking plenty of fluids, sipping small amount of water at a time to rehydrate the body. This peptic ulcer, it refers to the eroded area of the tissue lining, that is, it erodes the mucosa in the stomach or else in the duodenum. The duodenal ulcer occurs in the people in the age group of 25 to 45 years. The gastric ulcer, it is common in the age of 50 years. The peptic ulcer, it is caused due to the erosion of the mucosa, that is the covering which lines the stomach or duodenum. So there are two types of ulcer. One is a duodenal ulcer and second one is gastric ulcer. Gastric ulcer occurs above the age of 50 years. Ulcer is caused mainly due to the bacteria Helicobacter pylori. It's a 1 mark question. Ulcer, it is mainly caused due to the bacteria. What's the name of the bacteria? Helicobacter pylori. It may be caused due to the uncontrolled usage of aspirin or certain anti-inflammatory drugs. Ulcer is maybe also caused due to smoking, alcohol, caffeine and psychological stress. Obesity. This obesity is caused due to the storage of excess of body fat in the adipose tissue. The adipose tissue is a place where the fats are stored. It may induce hypertension, atherosclerosis, heart disease and diabetes. The obesity may be genetic or due to excess intake of food, endocrine and metabolic disorders. So the degree of obesity is assessed by the body mass index, that is a BMI. So what is a BMI? Body mass index. So it's a 2 mark question. What is a BMI? The normal BMI range for adult is 19 to 25. If it is above 25, it is considered as a obese. So it is as body weight in kilogram divided by the square of body height in meters. For example, a 50 kg person with a height of 160 centimeters would have a BMI of 19.5. So how the BMI is calculated? It is calculated the body weight in kilogram is divided by the square of body height in meters. So BMI is a 2 mark question. So what is obesity? It is caused due to the storage of excess of body fat in adipose tissue. It may causes the hypertension, atherosclerosis, heart disease and diabetes. So this class we learnt about the digestion in the mouth, stomach and intestine, absorption, assimilation, digestion and the nutritional and digestive disorders. So what are the digestive disorders? Protein energy malnutrition, that is a marasmus and kwashiorkor, indigestion, constipation, vomiting, jaundice, liver cirrhosis, gallstones, appendicitis, hiatus hernia, diarrhea, peptic ulcer and obesity.